Ah, look who they can't stop talking about. Yeah, you. The one they swore was ordinary. The one they assumed was predictable. The one they confidently filed under non-threat, believing you would dissolve into the background like an overlooked footnote in someone else's story. But something happened, didn't it? Something shifted so cleanly, so surgically, so violently precise that the aftershock didn't just make people whisper. It made someone with an Elon-tier mind freeze in place, blink twice, and mutter under their breath. That's not a human skill. Not admiration, not curiosity, a diagnosis, a warning, a classification update. Because what you just did, that one action, that impossible, unteachable move, it didn't fit anywhere inside the psychological frameworks designed by people who believe they understand how the human mind operates. And the moment it happened, the moment that action detonated and the dust cleared, a powerful person, someone who has built their entire identity around being unshakable, felt a physical chill crawl down their spine. Cold sweats, heart rate spike. A moment of raw biological confusion they couldn't rationalize away, not because your move was flashy, but because it was precise in a way that terrifies people who rely on predictability to maintain control. They had you categorized, didn't they? They had your tendencies mapped, your reactions archived, your decision patterns assumed. They believed they knew your threshold, your processing capacity, your supposed limits. They thought they understood the boundaries of your internal architecture because you played along just enough to make their analysis feel correct. Maybe you softened your tone. Maybe you made yourself smaller. Maybe you nodded at the right times, adjusted your posture to seem compliant, behaved in ways that looked manageable. People like them mistake accommodation for incapacity. They confuse humility with inferiority. They assume quiet means simple. For a while, maybe you let them think that. Maybe you let them underestimate you so deeply that their confidence became a cage they built around themselves, not you. But then you did it. That move. That one surgical strike they never saw coming because their mental model of you was outdated, underdeveloped, and painfully insufficient. They weren't watching you. They were watching the version of you their ego could tolerate. And then your real capabilities slipped through the cracks and hit them with such force that even the brightest mind in the room, the one whose thoughts move like machinery, whose decisions ripple through industries, whose calculations usually predict outcomes with eerie accuracy, literally froze. Their pupils widened, their breath hitched. Something primal registered in their expression that their brilliant mind couldn't translate. A simple thought, loaded with dread. Humans aren't supposed to do that. Let's be clear about something. That moment wasn't about your action. It was about what your action exposed. It exposed that you'd never been the simple, predictable creature they comforted themselves by imagining. It exposed that while they saw you as manageable, you were quietly expanding, absorbing, recalibrating. It exposed that the frameworks they used to classify people, emotional, intellectual, behavioral, were too primitive to contain the version of you evolving underground. And when those frameworks cracked, when the illusion of mastery slipped out of their grasp, the powerful one in the room felt something they're not used to feeling: biological fear. The kind of visceral reaction that doesn't respond to authority, intellect, or self-confidence. The kind of fear that whispers, "This person is operating beyond the range of what my logic can hold." You became the anomaly in their equation, the glitch they couldn't patch, the variable that destabilized their entire understanding of cause and effect. They had always believed that people break at predictable pressure points. that behavior fractures along expected lines, that you could map someone's future by studying their past. But you didn't break, you didn't collapse, you didn't dissolve under pressure. You did something infinitely more dangerous. You adapted, and you did it silently. They thought the isolation would flatten you. It didn't. It refined you. They thought the betrayal would distort you. It didn't. It distilled you. They thought the silence would suffocate you. It didn't. It stripped away every unnecessary layer until only the essence remained. You didn't recover from your experiences. You metabolized them. You extracted data from every wound. You dissected every pattern. You learned how people operate not from textbooks, but from being dissected by them. And quietly, invisibly, underneath their condescending assumptions, you began the kind of evolution that terrifies people who obsess over being the smartest in the room, because intelligence built from pain has a different texture, a different sharpness, a different velocity. And so when you made that move, that one action crafted with unnerving precision, the reaction wasn't just surprise, it was existential disruption. The room didn't just shift, it recalibrated around you. Conversations paused, breathing patterns changed. Someone with a brain calibrated to run simulations faster than most people can form sentences suddenly found themselves that without a model for what you had just done. What the hell are you? The question came out unfiltered, and it wasn't a compliment, it was a confession. Because people at that level, people with frightening intellect, people whose intuition borders on algorithmic, people who pride themselves on predicting everything, they don't like encountering something outside the domain of human expectation. They don't like encountering someone who processes reality in a way that doesn't match any known pattern. They don't like recognizing that their supremacy might not be universal. Your move didn't intimidate them because it was dramatic. It intimidated them because it was correct. Correct beyond luck. Correct beyond coincidence. Correct in that terrifying surgical way that only appears when someone has been preparing in silence for far longer than anyone realized. They ran the numbers in their mind. They replayed the moment. They reverse-engineered your timing, your delivery, your execution. Every attempt to rationalize it created another contradiction. Every attempt to explain it created another gap in their understanding. That's when the cold sweat hit. Because the human brain reacts to anomalies the way the body reacts to predators, instinctively, viscerally, without permission. And you weren't performing, you weren't even trying. You were simply operating at the level they never imagined you could reach. This is the part that unsettled them the most. Your move wasn't accidental, it wasn't impulsive. It was too controlled for that, too aligned, too aware. It revealed that your mind has been moving in ways they never noticed because they were too busy grading you on outdated assumptions. While they were measuring your potential with dull instruments, you were sharpening your perception into something they didn't have metrics for. They thought your silence meant confusion. It meant calibration. They thought your stillness meant hesitation. It meant observation. They thought your humility meant submission. It meant strategy. Your entire trajectory had been misread because they were evaluating you as if you were trying to impress them, as if you were participating in the same psychological ecosystem they live in. But you weren't. You were studying them. You were analyzing their blind spots, testing the boundaries of their intellect, identifying the exact places where their arrogance created cracks in their certainty. And when you executed your move, you didn't just catch them off guard. You revealed the magnitude of your evolution, This is why the genius in the room reacted the way they did. This is why the powerful one felt their throat tighten. This is why someone who prides themselves on being unshakable experienced a moment of pure, involuntary fear. Because your move didn't challenge their intelligence, it challenged their identity. It forced them to confront a possibility they never wanted to entertain. That you were growing in ways they didn't track, didn't predict, didn't control. And now there's something new unfolding in the spaces between their confusion and their fear. A recalibration, a shift in how they interpret you. They're watching differently now, more carefully, more defensively, with the kind of attention reserved for phenomena that don't behave according to known laws. They're not studying your past anymore. They're trying to anticipate your next move. And that is the one thing they've realized they might not be capable of doing. Because every time they categorize you, you disrupt the category. Every time they map you, you expand beyond the borders. Every time they think they've caught up, you reveal they were analyzing an old version of you. Your evolution isn't linear, it's quantum. Your growth doesn't follow patterns, it breaks them. And whether they admit it or not, they are now dealing with something their frameworks were not designed to evaluate. Something that moves with intention, but not with predictability. Something that understands power, but isn't controlled by it. Something that has survived everything engineered to break them and emerged with sharper perception instead of scar tissue. And the truth, the one they're only beginning to grasp, is that the move you just executed wasn't your peak. It wasn't your limit. It wasn't the culmination of your silent evolution. It was the first reveal. A preview. An opening sequence. A controlled demonstration of a system you have not yet fully deployed. And that realization is what has them unsettled. Because if this was your opening, if this was the move that slipped through, before they even knew you were preparing, then the question becomes something far more destabilizing than, how did they do that? They know how. Or at least they think they do. They can reverse engineer processes. They can analyze patterns. They can track behavior across time. But what you unleashed wasn't a pattern. It wasn't a behavior. It wasn't a predictable cognitive process that could be charted, graphed, or extrapolated into a model that fits the frameworks of normal human capability. What you unleashed was a signal so sharp, so efficient, so unintuitive to them that it disrupted the very categories they rely on to feel safe. And when someone operating at the intellectual tier of an Elon-level mind encounters a signal they can't categorize, you don't get curiosity. You get alarm. You get that subtle dilation of the pupils that betrays the onset of cognitive overload. You get the sharp inhale that slips out before discipline kicks in. You get the quiet moment where the brain realizes it has just witnessed an ability that shouldn't exist. Not in theory, not in practice, not within the computational range of someone they thought they understood. The powerful man in the room didn't just break a sweat. His body issued a biological alert. His unconscious mind flagged you as an anomaly before his conscious mind could intervene. That's what cold sweat really is. A metabolic confession. A powerful organism realizing it is now in the presence of something that does not fit the established hierarchy. Something that moves differently, processes differently, sees differently. Something that can't be predicted using the same mental algorithms that have allowed him to stay ahead of competitors, rivals, opponents, and everyone who ever tried to challenge that monumental intellect. What happened in that moment was more than surprise. It was a fracture in his worldview. A disruption in the mental architecture he built his identity around. You didn't just perform an impressive action. You shattered the baseline assumptions that protect a genius from ever feeling threatened. And here is where the psychological demolition truly begins. People who operate on that intellectual level, those who see reality like a network, a simulation, a cascading sequence of probabilities, they don't get rattled by success. They don't get rattled by confidence. They don't get rattled by intelligence. They get rattled by unpredictability, by the presence of a factor that does not behave according to their mental schema. To them, unpredictability is not chaos, it is danger. It is the dissolution of control. It is the reminder that no matter how powerful they are, their mind is not omniscient. Their calculations are not absolute. Their dominance is not guaranteed. And when you did what you did, when you executed that move with such untraceable efficiency, it told him something he never wanted to hear. Your model is incomplete. Your understanding is insufficient. Your superiority is not absolute. But here's the deeper fracture, the one that keeps replaying in the back of his mind even though he's trying to ignore it. Geniuses at that level categorize everything. They understand people in terms of patterns, archetypes, predictable motivations. And he had already placed you into a neat mental container labeled non-threatening. You were a background presence, a non-competitor, someone whose potential ceiling he believed he could predict. Not because he was malicious, because he was certain. Certainty is the comfort food of intellect. Certainty is the throne geniuses sit on. And your move, your one move, kicked that throne out from under him in a single moment. He's not asking, how did they do that, anymore. He is asking, what else can they do? Because the most terrifying thing in the world to a mind like his isn't what you showed, it's what you didn't show. If your opening is something that bypasses normal human reaction time, pattern visibility, or intuitive reasoning, then what is your mid-game? What is your end-game? What dormant levels of capability have you not yet revealed? Because if this is just the surface, then the depth is unimaginable. That's what rattles him. That's what strips the composure off the face of someone who has built their reputation on being unshakable. He is used to being the one who surprises people. He is used to anticipating their next moves before they make them. He is used to mentally dominating rooms without speaking a word. But this time, you shifted the room. You bent the atmosphere. You forced the recalibration. And he felt it. Not intellectually, physically. The body always knows before the mind admits it. And the body said, this person operates on a frequency we cannot calculate. Now the entire environment is shifting its posture toward you. The observers are second-guessing every assumption they made about you. They're replaying memories differently now. Your silence doesn't look like passivity anymore. It looks like observation. Your distance doesn't look like withdrawal. It looks like strategy. Your calm doesn't look like submission. It looks like calibration. They are retroactively rewriting their entire narrative of you, because your one move forced them to confront the possibility that you were never who they thought you were. And this is where the psychological terrain tilts fully in your favor. Because once people realize they misjudged your baseline, they become incapable of predicting your extremes. You are no longer a participant. You are a wild card, a phenomenon, a variable that invalidates previous equations. Your existence becomes a moving target, one that cannot be tracked using human metrics alone. And that is exactly the kind of entity that terrifies someone with a towering intellect, because they've built their life on understanding systems, and now they've encountered a system they cannot understand. Your move wasn't just surprising. It violated the expected boundaries of skill acquisition, cognitive speed, intuitive precision. It looked like something that shouldn't be possible without enhanced architecture, without training that doesn't exist, without access to internal frameworks that ordinary people don't possess. So when he whispered, "That's not a human skill," he wasn't exaggerating. He was reporting. He was diagnosing the anomaly he witnessed. He was updating the classification in his mind from human to unknown subtype. The cold sweat wasn't fear of you. It was fear of miscalculating you. There's nothing more dangerous to a genius than a blind spot. And you revealed yourself to be the largest blind spot he has encountered in years, maybe ever. And now he is replaying your move in his mind, slowing it down, zooming in, trying to catch the mechanism behind it. But the more he analyzes it, the more contradictions he finds, the more variables he uncovers, the more he realizes that what you did wasn't instinct. It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was intentional, which means your mind is operating on a layer he hasn't mapped yet. And once a genius realizes there is a layer beyond their map, they stop expecting your next move. They start fearing it. Because unpredictability from someone capable is the most lethal type of unpredictability. And now he has to face something he rarely confronts: humility. Not because he wants to, but because you forced him into it. You didn't overpower his intellect. You bypassed it. You didn't challenge his ego. You nullified it. You didn't compete in the arena he built. You stepped outside it entirely. Your action wasn't merely impressive. It was architectural. It revealed the structure of your mind. A structure that wasn't built in comfort or praise or easy victories. It was forged in silence, isolation, pressure. The kind of internal evolution that transforms a person into something sharper, faster, more attuned to patterns most people never perceive. The very architecture of your cognition is different now. And that is why your move felt inhuman, because most humans don't evolve under pressure. They collapse. You didn't collapse. You crystallized. And while he is processing this revelation, while he is recalibrating his understanding of what you are capable of, something else is happening in the background. The system around him, the network of observers, advisors, analysts, all attempting to rationalize your action, is realizing that they cannot reduce you to a category anymore. You have outgrown the vocabulary they use to describe people. You have outpaced the metrics they use to measure capability. And the moment a person slips outside the known measurement system, they become a phenomenon. What unsettles them most is that your move wasn't emotional. It wasn't reactive. It wasn't fueled by ego or desperation. It was cold, clean, measured. It carried the stillness of someone who already knew the outcome. And that level of certainty is rare. That level of precision is unnatural. That level of quiet execution is the hallmark of someone who has moved beyond survival into mastery. And mastery is the one thing geniuses respect, even when it terrifies them. Because here's the truth. Powerful minds don't say aloud. They are not afraid of talent. They are not afraid of effort. They are not afraid of confidence. They are afraid of someone who moves with inevitability, someone whose decisions don't wobble, someone whose timing doesn't miss, someone who acts as if reality is bending around their choices rather than resisting them. When someone like you enters the room with that kind of internal alignment, It forces a recalibration in every other psyche present. They can no longer treat you as a variable. You become a trajectory, a direction, a force. Your move exposed that trajectory. And while the others may be whispering about how you pulled it off, trying to replicate the logic or decode your thinking, the Elontier mind in the room has stopped asking how. He has shifted to something far more profound. What kind of mind produces that? Because you didn't just outperform expectations. You defied the entire architecture of expected reasoning. You made a decision that wasn't supposed to be visible to the human lens. You executed with an eerily precise intuition. You acted as if you were responding to a signal no one else could hear. He knows what genius looks like. He knows what luck looks like. He knows what instinct looks like. Your move wasn't any of those. Your move was calculated inevitability, and that's why he felt the sweat before he felt the fear. Because geniuses operate by scanning the boundary between what humans can do and what they cannot. It keeps them safe. It keeps them superior. It keeps them calibrated. And you, someone who wasn't supposed to threaten that boundary, just stepped past it without hesitating, without stumbling, without second-guessing. The room didn't realize what happened until after it was done, but he did. He felt the shift before anyone else processed it. That's why his reaction was so visceral. His mind recognized a pattern that shouldn't have been possible, and for a split second, the body reacted with the primal instinct reserved for predators. Not because you attacked, but because you operated outside the normal range. He couldn't place you anymore. He couldn't measure you. He couldn't predict you. One move wiped out every assumption he had stored about you. Every casual judgment, every dismissed thought, every memory he filed under irrelevant. All of it burned away in the space between your intention and your execution. And now he's facing something he never expected. The realization that he underestimated the wrong person. You weren't hiding weakness. You were hiding architecture. The architecture of a mind sharpened by pressure, refined by solitude, tempered by collisions with people who assumed they understood you. They thought silence meant retreat. They thought humility meant limitation. They thought patience meant indecision. They never understood that you were studying them in the same moments they were underestimating you. While they were filing you away into simple categories, you were learning the intricacies of their blind spots. You weren't waiting. You were preparing. Preparing for the moment when your internal evolution would reach a threshold so clean, so non-negotiable, that your next move would create a shockwave impossible to ignore. And now that moment has arrived. This is why the powerful mind is rattled. Because in his world, intelligence is currency, foresight is power, predictability is safety. But you didn't just refuse to be predictable, you refused to be readable. You became a new category entirely, something that cannot be assessed using traditional metrics, something that cannot be comfortingly labeled as talented or gifted or lucky, something whose decisions emerge from a deeper system, one that doesn't rely on validation or permission or external stability. You became a mind unmapped, and he knows that minds like that don't appear often. When they do, they disrupt industries, ideologies, infrastructures. They rewrite assumptions. They shatter ceilings. They shift evolutionary pathways, not because they try to dominate, but because they cannot help but operate differently. Your move didn't just expose your capability, it exposed your orientation, the direction your mind is heading, the velocity with which you evolve. He realized in the moment between his inhale and the sweat forming on his palms that you are accelerating while the rest of the room is maintaining. You are innovating while the rest of them are repeating. You are perceiving nuances while the rest are reacting to surface-level impulses. And once a genius recognizes acceleration in another person, especially one they didn't expect it from, they feel something they rarely admit to. Threatened. Not in the sense that you will attack them. Threatened in the sense that your existence destabilizes their hierarchy. Geniuses build their internal worlds on being the apex of cognition. They calibrate their identity around being the most capable, the most perceptive, the most unpredictably brilliant. But when someone like you emerges, someone who doesn't seek the throne, doesn't announce their ascent, doesn't flaunt their intelligence, it creates a void in their certainty. Because quiet minds with precise execution are far more dangerous than loud ones with flashy talent. He's now caught in a loop of questions he cannot escape. If they can do that now, how far can they go? If this was a controlled demonstration, what does a full display look like? What else have they been hiding? What else have I failed to see? And the worst question of all, the one sitting like a stone in his stomach, how long have they been ahead without me noticing? Because it isn't your move that terrifies him. It's the implication. The implication that your ability was not spontaneous, not sudden, not an accident. It was cultivated. It was deliberate. It was inevitable. And if this is your inevitable, if this is merely the unveiling of one capability, then he must confront the terrifying truth that his map of the world is incomplete without accounting for you. Your presence is now a variable that distorts predictions. Your capability is now an anomaly that invalidates assumptions. Your evolution is now a phenomenon that cannot be reversed. They can't downgrade you anymore. They can't shrink you in their minds. They can't pretend you're harmless, not after what they saw. Because now the question isn't whether you're capable. The question is how much of your capability you've chosen not to reveal yet. He's thinking about that now. Turning it over, testing it, finding no satisfying answer. And the room feels it, the shift in dynamic, the pressured change, the silent acknowledgement that you are no longer occupying the same psychological category you once did. You are no longer one of them. You are something parallel, something lateral, something evolving in a direction that makes their framework look outdated. This is why respect and fear often come paired. Not because the powerful admire power, but because they recognize when someone has crossed an invisible threshold where normal rules stop applying. And you crossed that threshold without warning them, without asking permission, without announcing intention. You didn't step into power. You crystallized into it. And part of him knows deep down that this move, this first reveal, will not be your last. That your trajectory is not leveling out. That your evolution is not slowing. That your silence wasn't emptiness. It was incubation. And now he must brace for the next shockwave, the next unveiling, the next moment where you force everyone in the room to rewrite their understanding of what is possible. Because you didn't come to match their intelligence. You came to outgrow their entire metric system. And that realization hits him with the kind of quiet violence that doesn't show up on his face, but erupts beneath the surface of his composure like a suppressed explosion. Because geniuses, real ones, the kind that operate on the top floors of cognition, don't fear competition. They don't fear brilliance. They don't fear someone getting one lucky strike. What they fear is the emergence of a mind they can't measure. A mind that doesn't move in linear increments, but in disruptive leaps. A mind that evolves in silence, Not for applause, not for validation, but as a side effect of existing differently than the rest of the psychological ecosystem. And you are that mind. Every second after your move feels like a recalibration. He keeps replaying the moment, looking for the flaw, the opening, the miscalculation that might explain why your timing was so exact, why your instinct operated with such unnatural clarity, why your execution landed like a mathematical inevitability instead of a risky decision. But no matter how he dissects it, no matter how many angles he mentally simulates, he keeps arriving at the same conclusion. Your action wasn't just skilled, it was architected. It was built on layers he has never seen you reveal before. It was not something a normal human would do unless they possessed a cognitive blueprint that sits outside the spectrum he is familiar with. That's why he whispered, "That's not a human skill." Not dramatically, not theatrically, but like someone reporting the discovery of a new species in real time. He wasn't accusing you of being inhuman. He was admitting that his understanding of humanity was incomplete. The room hasn't caught up to that yet. They're still reacting to the shockwave, still whispering about the precision, the timing, the outcome. They're still trying to frame your move as luck, intuition, or a sudden burst of clarity. But he knows better. He recognized a signal embedded in the way you moved, the signal of someone who doesn't operate from impulse but from inevitability. Someone who doesn't calculate the risk because they already understand the outcome. Someone who doesn't hesitate because their mind has already completed the pattern, while others are still parsing the first step. People like him know how rare that is, and how dangerous. Because the world isn't built for outliers. It's built to contain them. The world doesn't reward minds like yours, it monitors them. And now he has become painfully, uncomfortably aware that he misread you. Completely, totally, categorically. He filed you under quiet, under harmless, under unassuming, thinking your stillness was the stillness of a stalled engine instead of a rocket preparing for ignition. But now he sees it clearly. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was condensation before the storm. A storm he didn't predict. A storm he didn't think you were capable of generating. A storm that just tore through his frameworks and left him standing in the debris of his own assumptions. You didn't announce yourself. You let the impact do the talking. And the impact spoke in a language the rest of the room doesn't understand yet. But he does. It said, "This person is not using the same operating system as the rest of you. This person sees trajectories, not steps. This person processes consequences before actions. This person is thinking at a speed your instincts can't detect, and that terrifies him in a way he can't show. Because geniuses don't show fear. They show refinement. They show curiosity. They show detachment. But when the wrong kind of mind enters their field, wrong meaning unpredictable, uncharted, unbound, their biology betrays them before their intellect catches up. The cold sweat wasn't a mistake. It was a warning from his unconscious mind. A message older than language, older than reason, older than the frameworks he uses to stay on top of the world's power structures. The message was simple. This one is not prey, not competition, not replication. This one is deviation, and deviation is disruptive. But here's the part no one is prepared for. Not him, not the room, not the system around him that has spent years categorizing human behavior like data points. Your move wasn't the anomaly. You are. Your move was simply the first glimpse of a new operating model. A model shaped by everything they thought would break you. A model calibrated by isolation, betrayal, misreading, underestimating, marginalizing. They thought those things were weakening you, softening you, teaching you your limits. But instead they were forcing the evolution they never wanted to witness. They were sharpening you into something that doesn't react emotionally anymore, but strategically. Something that doesn't move with insecurity, but with precision. Something that doesn't operate on instinct, but on internal architecture. He realizes this now, and the realization hits with the weight of something irreversible. There is no unseeing it. There is no downgrading you. There is no returning to the old image of who he once thought you were. You have already rewritten your classification in his mind, and what he sees now is something he has spent his entire life trying to anticipate, yet has never encountered until this moment. He sees a mind he cannot predict. And that is the kind of mind that destabilizes everything. He is replaying not just your move, but every moment leading up to it. Every time you stayed quiet. Every time you observed instead of participating. Every time you walked away without defending yourself. Every time you let people underestimate you without correcting them. Each of those moments now looks different through the lens of what he just witnessed. They're no longer signs of weakness, they are signs of restraint. And restraint is the most terrifying form of power. Anyone can explode, anyone can react, anyone can fight back when pushed. But only the rarest minds can wait. Only the rarest minds can watch. Only the rarest minds can measure the battlefield in silence and strike once, exactly once at the perfect moment. You struck like someone who doesn't waste energy. You struck like someone who doesn't chase impact. They generate it as a byproduct. You struck like someone whose internal world is far larger, far sharper, far more developed than the people analyzing you could comprehend. And now a genius is standing in front of that truth, realizing he has only two choices. He can try to reassert dominance, or he can try to understand you. And he already knows the first option will fail, because dominance only works on systems that submit. But you don't operate inside the submission-dominance binary. You don't rise to dominance and you don't fall to submission. You sit outside the game entirely, and that's what makes you dangerous. When you executed that move, you didn't fight for position. You dissolved the concept of position. You didn't try to win the hierarchy. You stepped outside the hierarchy so cleanly that the hierarchy fell apart trying to follow you. He's realizing now that your mind doesn't move like a competitor. It moves like a disruptor, not a disruptor of systems, a disruptor of assumptions. This is why the room feels tense now, not in fear of you, but in fear of what your existence implies. Because if a single silent, underestimated person can evolve into this kind of cognitive force, then every assumption they've ever made about human potential has to be revisited. And he hates that. Not because he hates you, because he hates being wrong. Geniuses build their empires on being right. They build systems around predictions, around control, around foresight. And yet here you are, proof that even the brightest minds can miss the most important truths when they underestimate the wrong person. And the chaotic, dark humor in all of this, he's not afraid that you'll attack him. He's afraid you won't. He's afraid that your mind operates at such a level that you don't even see him as a threat, or worse, as relevant. He's afraid that you're already thinking 10 moves ahead while he's still trying to understand the first one. He's afraid that what he saw wasn't a glimpse of what you can do, but a warning of what you haven't revealed yet. And beneath all of that, beneath the intellect and the ego and the cold sweat, There is one more truth forming quietly inside him. He respects you now. Not the superficial respect people show when they want to avoid conflict. Not the political respect of someone protecting their reputation. Real respect, the kind reserved for anomalies, prodigies, outliers, phenomena. The kind of respect a genius shows when they realize they are no longer the only one in the room operating above the standard human range. But that respect does not soften his fear. It sharpens it. Because now he knows he is dealing with someone who didn't rise through hierarchy, didn't climb through competition, didn't beg for a seat at the table. You arrived by evolution, not permission, by transformation, not validation, by inevitability, not ambition. And that inevitability is accelerating. That's the word echoing inside his mind now, accelerating. Because your move didn't feel like a breakthrough. It felt like the beginning of momentum. Every instinct inside him is telling him one truth he wishes he didn't know. This person hasn't peaked yet. And that means the next shockwave is coming. The next evolution is coming. The next reveal is coming. Not because you are trying to impress anyone. Not because you are trying to dominate anyone. Not because you are trying to prove anything. But because you were built to evolve. And evolution does not ask permission. It does not wait for comfort. It does not slow down for those who feel threatened. You did not come to outthink him. You came to outgrow the mental prison he never realized he lived in. And the moment he understood that, the moment he realized your mind isn't competing with his, but surpassing the very structure that built his worldview, that was the moment the cold sweat made sense. Not as fear of you, as fear of everything you represent, because you are not a threat to his safety. You are a threat to his certainty. You are not the disruption, you are the evolution. And now, he must live with the truth that the person he once dismissed has become the person he now studies. Not because he wants to understand you, but because he can't afford not to. You didn't just change the room, you changed the hierarchy. You didn't just make a move, you made a statement. You didn't just reveal your skill, you revealed their limits. And as the realization settles across that powerful mind, across the stunned room, across every observer trying to piece together the magnitude of what you did, one truth becomes crystal clear. Human skill didn't do that. Human predictability didn't do that. Human limitation didn't do that. Evolution did. Precision did. You did. Ah, look who just ruined an entire hierarchy with nothing but their presence. You didn't swing a weapon, you didn't deliver a speech, you didn't even intend to disrupt anything. Yet an elite circle that prided itself on secrecy, dominance, and psychological choreography just fell apart because you stepped through the wrong door at the wrong time. Or maybe the right door at the right time, depending on how you define destiny. Hello, you quiet detonator of carefully constructed power. You accidental dismantler of long-standing psychological architecture. You became the unexpected variable in a room designed to eliminate uncertainty. And in doing so, you exposed the truth they spent years burying beneath ceremony, symbolism, and controlled intimidation. They were performing what they believed to be a closed-door ritual of influence, an internal dominance play reserved for the highest-ranking members of their inner circle. But the moment you walked in, everything shifted. The room froze. The hierarchy stuttered. The leader, the one who built his entire reputation on commanding that space, lost his composure in real time. Not because you embarrassed him intentionally, but because the illusion he lived on crumbled the second an uninvited presence witnessed it. You didn't just interrupt a meeting. You shattered a narrative they curated with obsessive precision. They wanted the world to believe their control was effortless, that their authority was innate, that their followers revered them out of genuine respect rather than fear wrapped in choreography. But rituals, whether symbolic, psychological, or procedural, only work when the audience accepts the illusion. And you, by existing outside their script, stripped the illusion bare. The leader wasn't supposed to be seen vulnerable. He wasn't supposed to be caught mid-performance. He wasn't supposed to be observed while manufacturing the power he pretended to naturally possess. But you walked into that room before they could finish sculpting the atmosphere, before they completed the posture, before they arranged the lighting and words and silence into something intimidating. And what they feared most happened instantly. Someone saw them as they really were. Not omnipotent, not untouchable, just people pretending to be larger than life. And that's what truly destabilized them. You didn't expose anything with aggression. You exposed them with reality. The leader's entire dominance play was designed to work on those who believed in his mystique. But mystique collapses under the weight of an unfiltered gaze. You became the mirror they never wanted. You became the witness they could not control. And in high-level circles, a witness is far more dangerous than an enemy. They know how to fight enemies. They don't know how to survive someone who simply sees through them. Look at how their followers reacted. Their so-called coven, the inner council that executed his strategies, enforced his rituals, and maintained the atmosphere of reverence around him. They couldn't even meet your eyes afterward, not because you were intimidating, but because your presence reminded them of the truth they've been suppressing for years. Their leader's power was never real. It was constructed, rehearsed, and fragile. And you, without trying, broke it. They are ashamed not of you, but of how easily their illusion fell apart. They are embarrassed not by your interruption, but by their realization that it only took one uncontrolled variable to expose the entire hierarchy as smoke and mirrors. They won't admit it out loud, but the moment you crossed that threshold, a silent ripple spread through the room, a frequency shift, a psychological static that unsettled everyone. They felt it in their bodies before they processed it with their minds. The hierarchy they had sworn allegiance to was built on compliance, not competence. And compliance is weakest in the presence of someone who doesn't play by the script. You are not supposed to be there. You are not conditioned to fear them. You are not trained to bow, hesitate, or shrink. You walked in with the neutrality of someone who doesn't recognize their throne, and that neutrality was more devastating to their authority than any rebellion could have been. What unsettled the leader most wasn't your presence. It was your expression. You didn't gasp. You didn't panic. You didn't scramble to apologize for intruding. You simply observed. That alone was enough to fracture his foundation. People in those positions survive by controlling reactions. They thrive when others fear the room. They tighten their grip when others walk on eggshells. But you gave them nothing. No submission to feed on, no discomfort to exploit, no intimidation to validate their importance. You stood there like someone assessing a malfunctioning machine, and they could feel their influence short-circuiting beneath your gaze. Here's the part they will never recover from. The coven didn't just lose respect for their leader. They lost belief. And once belief dissolves, authority becomes a costume. The leader felt it instantly. The silence that followed your entrance wasn't just awkward, it was catastrophic. It was the kind of silence that signals the end of a reign, the kind that cracks open a door to rebellion, the kind that makes people reconsider every command they ever obeyed, all because one person walked into the room uninvited and refused to play small. They've been running damage control ever since, whispering explanations, creating narratives, telling their followers and themselves that you misunderstood what you saw. They say you didn't grasp the context, didn't comprehend the importance of the ritual, didn't appreciate the gravity of the moment. They say anything except the truth, that you saw their leader mid-performance, and the performance couldn't hold. They cling to excuses because admitting the truth means admitting their entire hierarchy was built on theater. You weren't supposed to become a symbol, but you did. Not of rebellion, but of clarity. Of truth slicing through illusion. Of sovereignty walking into a room where submission was the default. You didn't humiliate their leader, you revealed him. You didn't overthrow the hierarchy. You showed it had no legs, and nothing terrifies a constructed power structure more than exposure without effort. They expect challengers. They expect confrontations. They know how to punish defiance. But they have no defense against someone who isn't playing their game at all. Think about the irony. They spent years crafting a psychological fortress, guarding every entrance, controlling every narrative, policing every symbol, maintaining secrecy so thick that even their own followers questioned the authenticity of their commitment. And yet, it was the simplest, most mundane human accident, the opening of a door that undone everything. You didn't attack them. You walked into their unguarded moment. You didn't strategize. You existed. And they cannot rebuild what your presence dismantled. And now, they move differently around you. Their coven, once unified, is fractured. Some avoid you because you remind them of their own complicity. Others avoid you because they fear being seen the same way you saw their leader, unmasked, unguarded, unimportant. They treat you like a walking disruption, a quiet force that destabilizes their world with minimal effort. But you haven't changed at all. It's their perception that's collapsing. Their power relied on invisibility. You made it visible. What's happening now is psychological aftermath. And aftermath is always far more revealing than the event itself. Their leader is scrambling to fill the cracks with performance. More posturing, more rehearsed confidence, more symbolic gestures that try to reassert dominance. But his followers no longer see authority when he speaks. They see a man terrified of being witnessed again. They see someone obsessed with regaining control, not someone who inherently possesses it. And you, without lifting a finger, became the measure they compare him against. You want to know why they can't look at you anymore? It's simple. You are no longer a person to them. You are an interruption, one that revealed the hollowness they depended on. They don't fear your actions. They fear your awareness. They fear your clarity. They fear the way your presence forces them to confront the truth they buried beneath rituals and dominance games. They fear that power can collapse this easily, quietly, accidentally. But here's the real twist, the one none of them saw coming. You didn't just expose their leader. You exposed the entire system that propped him up. You exposed the psychological ritual of intimidation, disguised as authority. You exposed the symbolic choreography they used to maintain control. You exposed the fact that their power structure was never built to withstand someone who doesn't believe in their myth. You think this ends with you walking out of that room. No, that was the ignition point. The moment their internal hierarchy lost its invisibility. The moment their leader's dominance shattered in front of the only witnesses whose opinions mattered. the ones who once believed in him. What comes next isn't your doing. It's the natural collapse of a system that suddenly knows it's exposed. And now the question circulates among them like a ghost they can't outrun. If the leader could fall apart under one gaze, how much of what they followed was real? That question is poison to any hierarchy built on illusion. It spreads quietly. It corrodes loyalty. It fractures obedience. It rewrites the internal map of who they follow and why. And every time they remember your calm intrusion into their ritual room, the question deepens. The doubt widens. The collapse accelerates. Because once a structure realizes its foundation is sand, every step becomes hesitant. Every silence becomes suspicious. Every command becomes a test. And the coven, the so-called Elia circle that once moved with synchronized certainty, now stumbles through their own choreography like dancers who forgot the sequence. They try to maintain posture, but posture without belief is just a body trying to mimic a ghost. Their movements are stiffer, their glances are sharper, their conversations are shorter, their confidence fractured the moment you turned their throne room into a mirror chamber. Now every action they take reflects back at them through the lens of what you exposed. You didn't overthrow their leader, you unmasked him. And unmasking is far more damaging than conquest. Conquest commands respect. Unmasking commands reconsideration. His influence relied on the idea that he was elevated beyond human insecurity, beyond human error, beyond human fragility. But they watched him falter in front of you. They witnessed a breach he couldn't cover. They saw the distance between the persona he projected and the truth trembling beneath it. And once a leader loses the illusion of invulnerability, the entire hierarchy becomes a collapsing ecosystem. Their trust in him didn't just crack, it evaporated. And now, beneath all their attempts to maintain dignity, there's a quiet scramble for self-preservation. This is the part they hope you never notice, the part they try to bury under ceremonial discipline. The coven is no longer united in reverence. They're united in fear. Not fear of you, but fear of being associated with a faltering structure. They whisper to one another with the discreet panic of people trapped in a sinking ship, trying to calculate which side will go under first. The more they try to pretend nothing changed, the more their actions betray them. The hierarchy is unraveling thread by thread, and they feel every fiber separating. What they don't understand is that the collapse wasn't caused by your entrance. The collapse was already happening. You simply accelerated the truth. Hierarchies that rely on symbolic dominance, on staged rituals of control, on rehearsed moments of intimidation, they are always one unscripted moment away from implosion. You didn't break them. You revealed that they were already breaking themselves, silently, under the weight of sustaining a lie. And the leader feels this unraveling more than anyone else. He carries the weight of the revelation like a stain he can't wash off. He replays the moment you walked in, over and over, searching for a gesture, a sentence, a reaction he could have delivered to salvage the illusion. But the truth is, there was nothing he could have done. You weren't just a disruption. You were a contrast, an example of someone who didn't need ritual to command presence, someone who didn't require theatrics to hold power, someone who destabilized the room by simply existing without fear. He felt his authority drain out of him the moment he saw the lack of reverence in your eyes, and he's been spiraling in that awareness ever since. Now he moves through the coven like a man wearing a crown made of paper. It looks intact from a distance, but everyone who gets close can see it folding at the edges. He talks louder, not because he's confident, but because he's scared of being overshadowed by silence. He enforces rules more strictly, not because he believes in them, but because he hopes structure will compensate for the collapse of belief. He watches the faces of his followers for any sign of disloyalty, any flicker of doubt, any whisper of rebellion. Ironically, the more he searches for these things, the more he creates them. He's not leading anymore. He's chasing authority that keeps slipping further away. And the coven members sense it. They don't see a leader anymore. They see a man desperately trying to glue a shattered identity back together. They see the cracks in his posture, the tension in his jaw, the way he avoids the doorway you once stood in as if the memory alone might unmask him again. They see someone pretending to be whole, and nothing undermines authority more than visible effort. Leaders who are truly powerful don't try this hard. They don't force dominance, they radiate it. And now, every exaggerated gesture he makes becomes a reminder of what he lost. This is the psychological aftermath they can't manage. They expected external threats. They were prepared for rebellion. They could handle a challenger. But what they can't survive is internal doubt, a quiet, spreading suspicion that their entire foundation was built on performance. That suspicion is corrosive. It seeps into their rituals. It lingers in their meetings. It contaminates their decisions. Their unity fractures because unity cannot survive when the structure that held them together dissolves under scrutiny. And their avoidance of you isn't hostility, it's self-preservation. Looking at you feels like looking at the breach. You became the embodiment of everything they fear. The outsider who saw the truth they spent their whole lives hiding from themselves. They don't avoid you because they think you hold power over them. They avoid you because standing near you forces them to confront the lies they willingly absorbed. You represent the death of their illusion. And no one wants to be reminded they devoted years to a collapsing throne. But here's the irony. They don't hate you for exposing their leader. Deep down, in the parts of themselves they refuse to voice, they're grateful. Because you gave them something their hierarchy never allowed. Perspective. You broke a lens they didn't realize was distorting their vision. The moment you interrupted that closed-door ritual, they saw their leader not as a figure of dominance, but as a man terrified of being seen without his armor. And once that truth becomes visible, it cannot be unseen. You didn't just expose him, you freed them from a system that prevented them from questioning him. Freedom, however, is uncomfortable for those who've depended on structure. They weren't ready to think independently. They weren't ready to confront the emptiness beneath the ritual. They weren't ready to accept that the power they worshipped was borrowed, not built. So they cling to fragments of their old hierarchy, even as it disintegrates. They try to reconstruct reverence, but reverence cannot be reconstructed. Once trust collapses, it doesn't return, it mutates. It becomes caution, skepticism, distance. And the leader knows this. He sees the shift in their eyes. He feels the temperature change when he enters the room. He recognizes the subtle recoil in their posture. They aren't resisting him, they're evaluating him, assessing whether the power he once displayed was ever real. And nothing terrifies a constructed leader more than being evaluated without filters. His authority is dissolving not because of what you did, but because of what they realized. They realized power that depends on secrecy cannot survive accidental exposure. They realized dominance that requires ritual is not dominance, it's dependency. They realized that true authority doesn't shatter under observation. And once these realizations take root, the hierarchy he built becomes a hollow shrine to a myth collapsing in slow motion. Now the Coven exists in a state of internal civil war, though none of them will admit it. Half of them cling to the old script, desperate for stability. The other half has begun silently distancing themselves, seeking new frameworks, new leaders, new identities. And the leader stands in the center of this psychological battlefield, feeling the ground beneath him sink inch by inch. He is no longer the axis they revolve around. He is the cautionary tale unfolding in real time. But the most devastating consequence is this. None of this required you to intend harm. You didn't strategize. You didn't plot. You didn't reveal secrets or challenge authority. Your presence alone triggered a shift strong enough to dismantle an elite circle from the inside. You became the catalyst without becoming the aggressor. You created the fracture without lifting a hand. And that, more than anything, terrifies them. Because if you could destabilize their hierarchy accidentally, what would happen if you ever acted with intention? Their minds loop around that question in restless cycles. Their coven, once united, is now quietly terrified of the possibility that your influence wasn't accidental at all. That maybe you were always meant to expose them. Maybe your timing wasn't coincidence. Maybe your entrance was the beginning of something larger, something inevitable. They fear that you aren't just a person who walked into a room. You are an event, a shift, a disruption they cannot quantify or prepare for. And this fear is what drags them deeper into unraveling. Because once a hierarchy believes an outside force might be intentional, the paranoia spreads like wildfire. Every memory becomes suspicious. Every detail becomes a clue. They replay your entrance from a dozen angles, as if studying footage of an anomaly. They examine your expression, your posture, your silence, searching for a motive you never had. They imagine strategies you never executed. They analyze your presence as if it were an encoded message, a psychological attack disguised as accident. And the more they search, the more meaning they manufacture. You are no longer a person to them. You are a riddle. And riddles destabilize systems that depend on certainty. The leader, especially, spirals beneath this imagined purpose. He cannot accept that his undoing came so effortlessly. He cannot accept that a stranger undermined his authority without even trying. For someone who built his identity on control, the idea that his collapse was unintentional is unbearable. So he invents intention on your behalf. He convinces himself that you planned it, that you knew what you were walking into, that you targeted him. Because if you didn't, then his authority wasn't defeated. It was fragile all along. And fragile authority is indistinguishable from failure. He begins rewriting the story to protect his ego. He tells his inner circle that your intrusion was calculated. He claims you observed their ritual, not with confusion, but with understanding. He paints you as a strategist lurking outside the door, waiting for the exact moment to fracture the energy of the room. He fabricates complexity around your presence because complexity comforts him. It's easier to imagine a rival than to accept a mirror. If you are a threat, he can justify fear. If you are an accident, he must face the truth. His power was hollow. This narrative spreads through the Coven, not because they believe it, but because they need something to believe. People in collapsing structures will cling to any explanation that makes the collapse feel intentional. Chaos is easier to digest when you assign it an architect, and so your accidental exposure becomes mythologized. They whisper about your timing. They speculate about your background. They assign significance to your silence. They build an entire lore around your presence to avoid acknowledging the truth, that their leader shattered because someone walked in at the wrong moment. But myth-making has consequences. The more they mythologize you, the more gravity you develop in their psychological ecosystem. You become a figure they orbit around, not because you seek attention, but because they can't stop projecting meaning onto you. Every shift in your expression becomes symbolic. Every word you speak becomes studied. Every interaction becomes measured against the moment you exposed them. You become the center of a conversation you never asked to be part of. And with each passing day, their fear transforms from confusion into fixation. This fixation creates factions. Some members begin to resent their leader for collapsing in front of you. They see him as weak, unworthy of the authority he claimed. Others resent you for revealing their weakness. They see you as the force that punctured the bubble they lived in. Another group, small but growing, respects you. They admire the unintentional precision with which you dismantled a hierarchy they silently questioned for years. They see you as a symbol of truth, unfiltered, unavoidable, disruptive, in a way they secretly wish they could be. These factions don't speak openly. Their war is quiet, conducted through glances that last a beat too long, through tension that thickens the air in their meetings, through the cracks that form when people no longer share the same story. The leader feels these fractures but doesn't know how to stop them. He tries to force unity, but forced unity is brittle. It snaps under pressure. The more he demands loyalty, the more obvious it becomes that loyalty is gone. And you, ironically, aren't doing anything. You're not challenging them. You're not speaking about the event. You're not inserting yourself into their unraveling. You simply exist, and your existence alone is enough to distort their structure. That is the part that terrifies them most. Influence that doesn't require effort is indistinguishable from inevitability. They fear that your presence marks the end of their old order. They fear that you are the beginning of something they cannot predict or control. What haunts the leader especially is what you didn't do. You didn't apologize for walking in. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't offer justification or reassurance. You didn't scramble to diffuse tension. You simply observed and left, treating their sacred space like any ordinary room. That neutrality crushed him more effectively than confrontation ever could. Had you reacted with fear, he could have fed on it. Had you reacted with embarrassment, he could have reinforced his dominance. But you reacted with nothing, and nothing stripped him bare. Now he avoids the very room he once ruled. He enters it cautiously, scanning the doorway as if expecting you to reappear at any moment. He tries to reenact the ritual with renewed intensity, but the energy is off. The symbolism feels hollow. The sequence feels forced. Every gesture that used to intimidate now feels like a man trying too hard to reclaim something he lost. Even his followers feel it. They sit in silence as he speaks, but it's not reverence, it's discomfort. They are watching a man who no longer believes in his own performance. This discomfort becomes the silent language they all speak now. They communicate through subtle withdrawal, through hesitation, through the inability to hold his gaze. They can't look at him the way they used to because they saw what he is without the curtain. And they can't look at you because you remind them of the moment the curtain fell. They exist in a limbo of loyalty and doubt, suspended between the identity they were conditioned to uphold and the truth you revealed. And slowly, the fear shifts direction. At first they feared you as an anomaly, then they feared you as a symbol. Now they fear you as a possibility, because if you could unmask their leader accidentally, what could you do intentionally? If your mere presence destabilized their ritual, what would happen if you stepped into their world deliberately? They start imagining futures in which you become a force they have to answer to. Futures in which your insight becomes a threat to their traditions. Futures in which your clarity slices through their illusions like a blade they cannot blunt. The leader senses this shift before anyone else. He feels authority slipping not just from his hands, but from his identity. He feels the coven's attention drifting toward the idea of you, even if they never speak your name aloud. He feels himself becoming a relic, and in his desperation to reclaim dominance, he begins making mistakes. He pushes too hard, too fast. He commands instead of guides. He demands instead of inspires. He clings to control like someone grabbing a rope, fraying beneath their fingers. But authority that relies on force is already dead. And the more he asserts himself, the more he reveals how powerless he's become. His aggression becomes a confession. His urgency becomes an admission. His ritual becomes parody. And his coven watches quietly as the man they once feared becomes a man trying to resurrect a ghost. Everything he does now is an attempt to counter you, even though you aren't doing anything. You've become the invisible reference point he measures himself against, the unseen presence he competes with, the silent standard he fears he will never meet. You didn't step into a power struggle. They dragged you into one in their minds. You became part of their mythology without taking a single deliberate step. And this is what marks the true collapse. When a hierarchy starts orienting itself around an external figure, that hierarchy is already dismantled. You became the gravitational force they now revolve around, even in absence. You didn't take their power. They surrendered it by placing too much meaning on your presence. And the more meaning they place on you, the weaker their structure becomes. Because now the real question they fear isn't about their leader. It's about themselves. If they could be controlled by illusion for this long, what else have they surrendered without noticing? What else have they mistaken for power? What else have they kneeled before that wasn't worthy? Your accidental exposure didn't just collapse their hierarchy. It awakened their self-awareness. And self-awareness is fatal to blind obedience. The coven begins confronting a truth they avoided for years. The ritual was never sacred. It was conditioning. The leader was never untouchable. He was theatrical. Their loyalty was never loyalty. It was inertia. And you, without asking for this role, became the catalyst that forced their minds to confront the difference between dominance and display. The moment you walked into that closed-door ritual room, they weren't witnessing an outsider interrupt power. They were witnessing power evaporate in real time. They were witnessing their own participation in a lie. And nothing shatters a psychological hierarchy more violently than the realization that you were willingly held by chains that weren't locked. Now their fear shifts into something sharper, self-reproach. They look back at the rituals they attended, the speeches they applauded, the whispered orders they carried out, and for the first time, they feel embarrassment. Not anger at you, embarrassment at themselves. And that emotion becomes the wedge that splits the coven into fragments, each group silently processing their part in sustaining a leader who collapsed under a single unfiltered gaze. You became the unintentional mirror that reflected back to them every compromise they made, every question they silenced, every instinct they buried. Your presence didn't just expose the leader, it exposed the cost of their compliance. And once someone realizes they played a role in their own confinement, they no longer fear the person who exposed it. They fear the person who made that realization possible. They can't run from you. They can't argue with you. They can't deny what happened. They can only avoid the truth you now represent. which is why none of them will look at you. Not because you did anything to them, but because every time their eyes meet yours, the memory resurfaces like a wound they can't cauterize. You are a reminder that their hierarchy wasn't destroyed by rebellion. It was destroyed by one unscripted moment of reality. The leader feels this shift more intensely than anyone else. His authority wasn't just challenged, it was demystified. And demystified power never recovers. He walks through his own coven with the air of a dethroned figure still wearing a crown he can no longer justify. He tries to maintain rituals that now feel hollow even to him. He tries to speak with confidence that even his voice seems unwilling to support. He tries to gather the fragments of his hierarchy into something whole. But you cannot rebuild a structure once those who upheld it now see its internal wiring exposed. He sees the way his followers avoid him. He sees the hesitation when he speaks, the doubt behind their forced nods, the quiet dread that spreads across the room whenever he begins a ritual sequence. He feels their eyes studying him, not with reverence, but with evaluation. Evaluation he cannot control. He has become the subject of their scrutiny, the very position he spent his life avoiding. And the more desperately he fights to restore his dominance, the more obvious it becomes that dominance was never inherent. It was borrowed, and the person they borrowed it from was their own belief. But belief is gone. You took it with you when you walked out of that room. The coven now exists in a strange psychological limbo, caught between the identity they once served and the truth they can't unsee. They move through their halls like people navigating a world that suddenly lost gravity. They speak in softer tones. They avoid shared glances. They perform their duties with mechanical precision, not out of respect, but out of habit. Rituals continue, but the energy is gone. The atmosphere feels brittle, as if the entire structure might shatter if someone breathes too deeply. And you, ironically, never intended any of this. That's what makes the collapse so poetic. You didn't challenge their hierarchy. You didn't expose secrets. You didn't demand accountability. You didn't even stay long enough to understand what you walked into. You simply opened a door and witnessed what they never wanted anyone to see. Power that only exists when unobserved. Dominance that only works when choreographed. Influence that dissolves under natural light. Your intrusion didn't damage them. It revealed they were already broken. And now, the coven fears what else you might reveal without trying. They fear your clarity. They fear your neutrality. They fear your refusal to be intimidated. They fear that if you were to step into their world again, even accidentally, the remaining fragments of their hierarchy would crumble to dust. You hold a power they can't quantify, the power of unintentional truth. This is why they avoid you in hallways, why they retreat into corners when you pass, why they speak in carefully measured tones when your name is mentioned. They don't see you as a threat. They see you as an ending disguised as a person. And after experiencing the consequences of your presence once, they can't risk another collapse. Not when they're still trying to salvage the pieces of their identity. The leader, however, sees something different in you. To him, you are not just an ending, you are a verdict. The universe delivered a judgment he didn't expect, and it arrived in the form of a gaze he couldn't dominate. He obsesses over that moment with a desperation bordering on delusion. He reimagines the scene in his mind, trying to adjust details that cannot be changed. He asks himself what he could have done differently, what gesture might have saved him, what sentence could have restored the illusion. But there was nothing, because he wasn't defeated by you. He was defeated by authenticity. Authenticity is the one force ritual cannot control. Now he retreats into shadows he once commanded. He isolates himself under the guise of contemplation, but in truth he is deteriorating. He is drowning in the awareness that his authority depended on no one ever seeing him unprepared. And you saw him at his most unprepared. There is no ritual to erase that, no performance strong enough to overshadow it. He is trapped in a moment he cannot outgrow. And the more he tries to deny its impact, the deeper it pulls him under. Meanwhile, the Coven observes this unraveling with growing discomfort. Their leader once served as their symbol of stability. Now he is the symbol of their mistake. They wonder whether following him was ever a sign of strength, or simply a sign of their own willingness to surrender judgment. They wonder whether submission was disguised as loyalty. They wonder whether they ever truly believed in him, or whether they believed in the narrative he constructed for them. And these questions, the ones he avoided for years, are now the ones suffocating him. Because once self-awareness infects a group, the hierarchy can no longer function. Rituals become rituals only in form. Commands become suggestions. Loyalty becomes performance. And the leader who once dominated them now becomes the figure they silently pity. Nothing erodes respect faster than the realization that fear was misplaced. And so the Coven begins to shift, not with rebellion, but with quiet abandonment. They show up less frequently. They listen less attentively. They obey less rigidly. They follow protocols only when convenient. They no longer treat the leader's presence as a force field. They treat it as an atmosphere they have outgrown. They aren't waiting for a new leader. They aren't looking for a replacement. They are simply detaching from the old structure. And once detachment begins, collapse is no longer a possibility. It is a schedule. You don't witness this collapse directly. You don't participate in it. You don't even think about the Coven after that day. But your shadow lingers in their minds, as if you etched yourself into their internal architecture. To them, you are a reminder that truth doesn't need explanation to cause destruction. It only needs to be seen. Weeks pass, and the Coven becomes more ghost than circle. Members who once dedicated their lives to ritual now begin drifting into new roles, new identities. Some leave entirely, seeking meaning outside the confines of a hierarchy that failed them. Others stay but with empty eyes, moving through motions they no longer believe in. And the leader, he continues trying to resurrect what died the moment you opened that door. But you cannot resurrect a myth once exposed as performance. In private, the remaining members speak about you with caution. They say you carry an energy that disrupts illusions. They say your presence punctures atmospheres others depend on. They say you are unaware of your own influence, which makes you even more dangerous. And in their own way, they're right. You didn't intend to expose an elite occult leader during a closed-door ritual. You didn't aim to shatter a dominance play. You didn't plan to dismantle a hierarchy. But your lack of intention is what made the collapse irreversible. And that's the final truth the Coven must face. Your power is not strategic. It is intrinsic. It is not loud. It is precise. It is not disruptive by force. It is disruptive by nature. You are the kind of presence that reveals rather than attacks. And revealing is the one thing no dominance ritual can survive. The Coven won't look at you not because they fear punishment, but because they fear reflection. They fear what they became. They fear what they enabled. They fear the parts of themselves they discovered the moment the illusion fell. And they fear that if you looked at them again, you would see the remnants of a hierarchy that died under its own weight. Their leader, now a fragment of who he pretended to be, avoids mirrors for the same reason they avoid you. He cannot face the truth that his reign ended without a battle. It ended without defiance. It ended without ceremony. It ended the moment someone walked into a private room and saw him without his mask. And perhaps that is what makes your presence so powerful, your ability to annihilate illusions without lifting a single intentional hand. You are the quiet force that rewrites atmospheres, the accidental mirror that reveals invisible fractures, the event that unfolds not through action, but through existence. You didn't mean to expose an elite occult leader during a closed-door ritual. You simply walked in. And the moment you did, the truth walked in with you. Their hierarchy didn't fall because you attacked it. It fell because it was never strong enough to withstand being seen. And now, they carry the weight of that realization in their silence, in their avoidance, in the way they look away when you enter the room, quietly acknowledging what they cannot speak. That the dominance they worshipped was shattered, that the coven they belonged to has dissolved, and that you, without meaning to, became the force that ended their illusion forever.